Okay, today's training is only for training on transaction desk, working with the buyer only. So, this is the steps you go through to get to the documentation, to access the forms, the information about broker services, the the mod intake form, and the buyer's representation agreement. So, you go here to sign in. You sign in as a Realtor Pro. Make sure you're not as a consumer, that you're Realtor Pro, and you sign in. Once you're in, you want to access matrix, the little pink bar here, and then you want to go to where the left hand corner where it says My Matrix and go all the way down to where it says Transaction Desk. Click there. If this is your very first time in Transaction Desk, it's going to require that you set up. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to get that set up. Now, go ahead and move forward with setting it up, and we'll give you a couple of minutes. Also, I do want to point this out. At the bottom of the page, it is at the bottom right hand corner, it is a light bulb. It also has training and support information here. Please don't hesitate to take the training here. There is a ample amount of information here and tools that you can use to effectively work for that will help you with your clients' transactions. Okay, so everybody should be finished with setting up their processes, and we're going to create a transaction. So we'll start here. And for training purposes, remember that we're only working with the buyer. This is after you've done your consultation, or during your consultation, you can pull this screen up and create your buyer's representation form and your information about broker services and fill out your mod intake form. So we're working with the buyer. So I'm going to name mine for training purposes. Name my person Buyer Joe. And you go to the templates and you want to select buyer's representation. You click that. Source. You don't have to click any of this because you don't have a contract yet for a purchase of a house. You're only doing the name and the buyer's representation. In transaction desk, they don't say buyer's agent, they say selling agent. Listen agent or selling agent. So you select which agent you are. For this training, we're only working with the buyer. So you are the selling agent. You click create. If you want, you can fill this information out, but it is not needed. Okay, here are all your forms. Do not look at documents, look at forms. I always like to fill out the information about broker services first. This should be filled out right here, but this standardly, the first three lines will be standard information that you should not have to fill out. The only thing you need to fill out is your name, your license number, your email address, and your phone number. Then I go to the buyer's representation agreement. My client's name is Buyer Joe. His wife's name is uh, Buyer 2 Joe. And you want to put their address if you have an address for them, would be nice. If you don't have an address, don't worry about filling this section out. Look at the top, it says address, and then at the bottom it says city. Don't make the mistake and put everything up there. It's not going to collect properly on your other forms. Tab over so you can go to Texas, tab over again so you can do the zip code. Put your client's phone number here. Put their email address. You want to have forms that are filled out completely to show your professionalism. Okay. All your information should pull in automatically. It should say Mod Realty. It should have your name here. The office address is here. You put your phone number. You put your email address. If this populates like this, we want to change this to what your email address is. If you have another email address you'd like to add, if it's your transaction coordinator or somebody like that, feel free to add it. It's not a necessity. My thought process on this is saying what market area means that the area in the state of Texas specified as follows. What area of Houston are you showing them properties? I like to put on all my deals Houston metropolitan area. The reason why this covers everything. You may get a client that says, I want to move to Spring. Then they may change their mind and say, you know what, I'll move to Cypress. You know what, I'll move to Humble. This covers every area because if they only put Spring, if you only put Spring on here, then this buyer's representation agreement is only for homes in the Spring area. Term. This section, for me, it depends on how soon they're looking to move. If somebody expresses to you, let's say today is January 1st, and somebody expresses to you, my lease is up February 28th. I need to be gone by February 28th. For me, I'm going to put January 1st until approximately like maybe March 31st. This covers me for a short length of time. If you just generally want to put 6 months, that's fine, but discuss that with your client because a lot of people get intimidated when you try to lock them into a contract for long periods of time. Now, if I got a person that says on January 1, I'm looking to move in May, that is 5 months. What I'm going to do is a 6 to 7 month buyer's representation agreement. Because where they're not looking to buy right now and you want to lock them in and make certain that they use you as the real estate agent. Here's the biggest part of this form where people give you pushback. The broker's compensation. I'm not going to discuss the details about this form, but let's say we've already had our buyer's consultation and they agreed to pay me 3% commission. I'm going to put 3% on here. I'm also going to cover myself for a lease, which is 50% of the first month's rent, simply because sometimes you get buyers that turn into renters. They can't find the house that they want. They just say, forget it, I'll go ahead and lease. Sometimes you get renters that turn into buyers that they decide, if I'm going to pay that much for rent, I might as well purchase. Note The law only states that you have to have a buyer's representation agreement when buying residential property, not leasing and not purchasing commercial property. But it is always good practice for people to make a commitment to you and know, make a commitment to you and say that they want you to represent them exclusively, no matter what type of transaction it is. Now, you're going to go further down. Typically, this area, additional compensation, is not filled out, but you need to read it clearly because up here, as up here, it does say, I'm going to look at line 7, the fourth line, where it says broker is prohibited from receiving compensation for brokerage services from any source that exceeds the amount stated in this agreement. If you put 3% on here and somebody is giving you a $5,000 bonus, you cannot accept it unless you do an amendment to this agreement to say that your buyer is okay with you accepting more than 3% and they have to sign off on it. Here, I'm going to look at this real quick. Other compensation only inserts amounts of rates of compensation that are objectively ascertainable, and the specific amount of rate is known at the time of execution. Do not insert bonuses, a range of compensation, or terms such as to be determined. You cannot put that in this box. Read these two, and it will tell you what you could put. The protection period, I put 30 days. What this means is if during the time that you're under contract from 1/1 to 3/31 and you show them any property, you have a protection period of 30 days that if they go under contract from it, say for instance, they didn't want to extend this buyer's representation agreement to April. If you show them any property within that 3-month frame and they go under contract after this expires, you have a 30-day protection period where if they go under contract, you still can gain a commission. Okay. County. Because you put Houston metropolitan area, it's safe to put Harris County here. If you're working with a relocation company, put the name of the relocation company here. Intermediary status. I usually have my buyers check this box because if anybody at Mod Realty has a listing, you will not be able to sell their listing if this box is not checked. If they decide no intermediary, that basically means that nobody, absolutely nobody at Mod's property that has a listing at Mod can you show their property. So it's in good practice to explain this to them and let them know that they will be limited on properties they get to see if they don't check that box. Now, once again, read your contracts because it is absolutely embarrassing for if somebody asks you something about this representation and you have not read it and you don't know your contract. Here's the addendum that we talked about. You are going to check information about broker services. You're going to check general information about buyers, notice to buyers and sellers. You're going to say, check for your protection, get a home inspection, wire fraud, and you're going to check the Mod buyer intake form and buyer intake form and broker buyer notice to buyer tenant. Those are forms that I've included in this. Here, you are the broker's associate. Here, you're going to put Mod Realty LLC. Here, we're going to put our client's name. I think I forgot the person's name. Buyer to Joe. And this is all ready to go, but note that anything you do in transaction desk, you need to make all changes here because once you go to the signing page is a different process in ordering, adding different features for people to Like if you need to add different verbiage, it's a different procedure, and I will go over that with you too. So once we go here, my buyer intake form, my suggestion is for you to fill this out completely before sending it to your buyer. This is an interview process. This form should be pulled up, and you should be going over this form with your client in a pre-consultation. You got to make pre-consultation standard in your business. So this person's email is buyerjoe@gmail. Phone number, they have a different phone number. And you want to put his email address, buyerjoe2@gmail.com. Once again, you don't have to have their address, but if you do, you can put it here. It's already at the top. If they have the same address, you don't have to put it at the bottom. Preferred location. This is an interview process with your clients. Where do you want to live? Well, I wouldn't mind living in, let's say I'll move to Houston, Pearland, and Humble. Why? Because of the accessibility. It's accessible to everything. I like where it's accessible, like where I can get to certain places. Okay, cool. You need to know this because some people might say, why? Because I want to be 15 minutes from my job, or why? Because I want to be in a good school district. This helps you to navigate to say, all Houston schools are not great. In order to be certain that you get in a better school district, we should pick things in the suburbs. Property type. Some people may not even consider a townhouse until you give them that option. Do you prefer single family or condo? Single family. I just want a single family because I want a big backyard. Well, I want a single family, but I want a small yard. Well, you may want to consider a townhouse. Number of bedrooms. In here, if it's, you just put the minimum here. And so 4, most people will be okay with 5 bedrooms. Number of bathrooms, I want 3. Garage size, I want 2-car garage at least. Other preference is 2-story home. I want a pool. You could add all this information here. Pre-approved for a mortgage or not. If they're not pre-approved, you check no. What does this tell you? I need to get them some lender information. What's their price range? I want a property no more than $350,000. What's my monthly budget? $2,000. Well, $2,000. They cannot get a house at $350,000 and pay $2,000. That is another conversation, but this gives you some insight of what their thought process is and how you need to move to the next step of helping them to decide which more is important, the house price at $350,000 or the mortgage payment at $2,000. Funds available for down payment. We would like down payment assistance. Do you need any assistance with down payment or closing costs? Yes. Down payment and closing costs, that is a class to teach you about loans. We won't discuss that here. This is the major part about this form. A lot of people are having pushback because they don't want to pay buyer's agent's compensation. This is the form that says, do you only want to be shown properties if a seller has agreed to pay your buyer's agent compensation? If they check this box, you are to only show them properties that the seller has agreed to pay your compensation. Do you want to be shown properties where the seller may consider paying some or all of your buyer's agent's compensation? This means this is more negotiable. And if they're okay with it, then you check yes here. Most of my buyers have checked no, but I did have 2 people to check yes to say, I'm okay with paying some of your compensation. Lifestyle and preferences, school district preference. If a person has the school district preference, check it and put their notes here. Proximity to work or school or commute time. If they have, I want to be 10 miles from work, there's a way to search proximity in HAR. Check this. Some people may say no. Whatever their other desires, you put it here because you need to be the good listener and you need to guide your client in the right direction. Are they owning or renting? This is an important section because if they're owning, We need to know, what do you plan to do with your existing property? Sell it, keep it, or rent it out? What do you want to do with it? I'm going to keep it and I want to keep it in my family. I want to sell it or I want to rent it out. That way, if you know this information, you could possibly be on the buying side and the selling side, or the rental, being a rental manager. To renting the property out, or just finding out the information that they need. If they're a tenant, they put rent. When is their lease end? You need to put their date their lease ends. Well, their lease don't end to May 14th. So when do you want to buy? You want to shop for properties that they purchase in April or the beginning of May. This gives you information about your client. Preferred moving date. Well, I need some time uh, to settle in my property, so I don't want to move in no later than May 2nd. I want to close by May 2nd because I need the time to move in. I need 10 days. So you put May 2nd. Reason for move, want to upgrade, or I'm a first time home buyer. They may just like, this is my first purchase. Whatever it is, put that there because you need to be mindful of what's going on with your client. Everything is set. You're done. We've simply filled that out for them. We don't have to worry about them filling it out. Wire fraud. You need to be leery of this. And you need to pay close attention to this because this is big. People are sending wires to our clients to take their down payment. They're sending wires to the title company to take your commissions. This is big. We need to make sure that we are mindful of this. Another thing with transaction desk, as you see, it misaligned all of my stuff. All you do is refresh your page and it comes back. I have no idea why it does that. It's back to where it goes. So I'm just going through to make sure everything is filled out because once you leave this section, it's a little bit more task that you have to do to fill out this stuff. This is all filled out. I like transaction desk because everything flows over. Got your buyer's information up there. You don't have to double type. And you got this here, the signature page. Then you go to, for your protection, get a home inspection. This is just the information piece to tell your buyers why it's important to get a home inspection. Being an informed buyer, what's included in an inspection, how to find an inspector. Appraisals are not home inspections. Rate on gas and other safety issues. It talks about that, gives them information. You are upping your game and you're showing them why you are a good buyer's agent. Now, here, you could select all the forms here and upload them. I'm just going to select, I'm going to miss out on selecting that one. Say, for instance, I forgot to select that one. So I selected all those, and then I go to the basket, and then I go to the signing pen. This is where you're going to send it to sign electronically. I'm in here, and I'm like, oh, shoot, I forgot one document. It's very simple to add it. You come here to Docs, add a document, and it's going to tell you the one that was not added. You see all of these were added, and this one was not. Just push add, and it's in. Simple as that. So don't freak out if you mess that up. Now, we have no signatures. We need to add signers. Add a participant. You always add yourself to the transaction. Add to my list of contacts. You don't need to do that, but you need to add yourself to the transaction. You want to enter your role name. Who are you? Are you the listing agent here? You're the selling agent because you're representing the buyer. And remember, transaction desk does not say buyer's agent. It says selling agent. That's what the buyer's agent's role is here. You want to do it because it automatically puts your signatures where they belong on here. You click save. And if you come over here, you don't have to sign this form, but you have to sign this one. So my signature automatically, my initial automatically popped up there. You want to add your next participant. You add in the new person. It's buyer Joe. And the email address is buyerjoe@gmail.com. You need to enter their role. They are the buyer. You want to save them to this contact list and to this transaction, because if you ever have any documents, amendments, if you want to write your offer in this same folder, you could do so without having to add their email address and all of that stuff again. It's already here. Now you click save. Now their name is populating here. And it says everybody's role: Dion, selling agent, buyer Joe, buyer. Now we need to add buyer two. So we're adding buyer two. We're adding their last name, their email address, and their role. They are a buyer as well. We're going to save it to the contact list, add it to the transaction, and push save. Now you see their roles to the right, the signer's information here. You'll see it to the side, and then you will see how the system has added everybody's signature. Now what I did notice, I'm checking it to make sure everything is right. Oops, I forgot to put my name and my license number. So I'm going to go to the right. I'm going to click Tools. I'm going to do my name because it's my information. And I'm going to add myself. It's a box here that says full name. You drag the full name over there and my name pops up. I need to add a text box so I can put my license in there. You add this text box. You just click this one. It highlights and you place the text box where you want it to go. And in here, I'm adding my license. I need to add my email and my phone number. I highlighted it. I clicked here, and I'm going to put my email address. Now I need to add my phone number. Text box, highlight it, add my phone number. Okay, that's simple, but I didn't have to do all that. If I would have remembered to do it, it would have already been in there. So I got both of my buyers. I'm checking to make sure both of my buyers are set up for signatures. I'm there, they're there. Now don't ask why your signature is not here, because why do you need to sign the information about broker services? You already know this information. It's not for your information. Broker associate and client. Everything's filled out. Your commissions are in here. You don't need to drag and drop over there. Everything is filled out okay. Except for here. We need to initial the top. This is important. This needs to be initial. So you're going to go here. You're going to select buyer Joe. You're going to make sure buyer Joe, he's the first person. So buyer number one signs here. Initials here. Buyer number one, initials here. Buyer number two, initials here. You're going to come here and you're going to set their signing up. So you pick the one that says sign here because this is the signature page. So buyer Joe 2 signs here. Then we're going to go to buyer Joe 1 and they sign there. Now you need to set your signatures up. You sign there and drag your date over. Now this form is ready to go. We're still checking to make sure everything else is set up because sometimes it may mess up. All of that's good. All of that's good. We're both signing off. That's good. And that's good. So now we're going to click the next button. Once you've done that, you send. This is sending for signatures. And it will come back. You need to make certain that you sign off on everything and then remind your clients that they need to sign too, and then it will actually populate in your email box. Once it does that, you need to forward it on to the My Workspace to begin your transaction. And that's it for today's training, and this is how to fill out a buyer's representation agreement.